Across the world, artifacts have been discovered, authenticated, and then locked away, hidden from public view. Giant skeletons that vanished from the records, ancient tablets found in Iraq, yet untranslated and hidden, sealed shafts in Egypt, forbidden to outsiders, Vatican treasures stored in dark archives, Paracas skulls in vaults, their DNA only partially revealed. Each discovery is real, and each is shielded from public eyes. What secrets do these silent relics hold, and why were they never meant to be found? The first discovery centers on reports that swept across the United States in the late 19th century. Newspaper clippings from the 1880s and the 1890s described the unearthing of giant human skeletons, some said to stand over 9 feet tall, pulled from burial mounds in the Midwest and Appalachia. Many of these articles stated that the bones were sent to the Smithsonian Institution for study. Names such as Joseph Henry and Alice Herdlicka appear in correspondence and field notes from the era. Yet when researchers comb through the Smithsonian's accession ledgers and catalog records from 1879 to 1905, they find no trace of these supposed giants. There are no accession numbers, no catalog entries, and no internal memos confirming receipt, transfer, or disposal of oversized remains. Smithsonian archivists and historians have spent decades reviewing the institution's holdings, including the vast National Museum of Natural History, which now houses over 155 million items, 99% of them stored away from public view. Dr. Douglas W. Owsley has personally examined thousands of skeletal remains in the museum's collection. His verdict is clear: no skeletons matching the descriptions from those sensational reports exist in the archives. The tallest verified human remains in the Smithsonian's collection measure just over 6.5 feet, well within the normal range for Native American populations of the period. Search efforts continued for years, with retired archivists poring over handwritten ledgers, yellowed field notes, and early inventory lists, hoping to find even a single entry that would match the claims. Each time, the trail ends with the original newspaper stories, never with a specimen, a crate, or a catalog number. Historians now classify these accounts as disputed archival claims, often fueled by amateur excavators, mismeasured bones, or outright hoaxes. The Smithsonian issued a statement in 2014 that no such skeletons exist in our collections and no records support these claims. This discovery highlights the first unresolved gap between public reports and institutional record-keeping. The chain of custody is missing. Without that documented journey from discovery to storage, the line between fact and folklore remains blurred, leaving only a checklist of unanswered questions and an empty space in the archive where evidence should be. The second discovery, it sits in the heart of Iraq, where thousands of cuneiform tablets, some over 4,000 years old, rest in the vaults of the Iraq Museum and regional archives. These clay tablets, unearthed from sites like Nippur and Ur, carry the administrative and personal records of the world's first cities. Each bears a tag linking it to a documented excavation, with provenance logs tracing their journey from the ground to restricted storage. Assyriologists confirm the tablet's authenticity by analyzing the wedge-shaped script pressed into damp clay and the names of ancient kings stamped in their seals. Yet most of these texts remain unread, sealed away in drawers and storage cabinets protected from light, humidity, and human touch. After the 2003 looting of the Iraq Museum, staff moved thousands of tablets to undisclosed locations, logging every transfer in emergency chain of custody records. Security concerns and conservation needs now keep many of these artifacts out of public reach, and the Iraqi State Board of Antiquities controls all access. The scale of the backlog is staggering. Of the estimated 500,000 cuneiform tablets held worldwide, experts say at least 80% remain untranslated. Dr. Irving Finkel of the British Museum describes the challenge. Translation timelines can stretch for decades, slowed by the complexity of the script, the shortage of trained specialists, and the fragile condition of the tablets themselves. Some tablets are so brittle that even moving them risks damage, forcing conservators to prioritize stabilization over study. Even when authenticity is beyond doubt, the contents of these tablets are rarely published. Scholarly teams work through the backlog, but only a fraction of translations reach public databases or academic journals each year. The Iraq Museum's own inventory lists thousands of tablets as awaiting translation, with accession cards but no published text. Researchers acknowledge the reality. For many of these ancient records, the barrier is not secrecy, but logistics. Too many artifacts, not enough time, and too few hands to bring their stories into the light. The tablets exist, confirmed by excavation records and expert analysis, but their words remain hidden in storage, waiting for the day they can be read. The third discovery. The third discovery begins deep beneath the limestone hills of Egypt's Valley of the Kings. In 2006, a team using fiber optic cameras and ground-penetrating radar confirmed the presence of sealed shafts branching off from known tomb corridors. The probe's footage revealed untouched voids, narrow, dust-choked spaces with entrances blocked by ancient masonry. Egyptian field archaeologists, working under the supervision of the Supreme Council of Antiquities, documented the finds in excavation logs. But as excitement grew over what might lie inside, the ministry issued a sudden halt. Official permits were revoked, citing urgent conservation risks, humidity from human breath, vibrations from equipment, and the instability of the surrounding rock. Technical memos referenced the 1977 closure of Altamira Cave in Spain as a cautionary example, warning that even minimal exposure could irreparably damage the site's microclimate. Researchers debated the purpose of these sealed chambers, whether storage magazines, ritual spaces, or something else entirely, but with access suspended, only educated guesses remain. The shafts are real, confirmed by camera and logbook. Their contents, however, stay hidden, protected by institutional policy that places preservation above curiosity. The physical evidence is undeniable, yet the story remains unfinished, locked behind ancient stone and modern regulation. The fourth discovery lies behind the locked doors of the Vatican museums, where more than 70,000 artifacts are held in carefully controlled storage. Only about 5% of this vast collection ever reaches the public galleries. The rest, tens of thousands of ancient objects, sculptures, manuscripts, and relics, remain in climate-regulated vaults and archive corridors, accessible only to a select group of researchers. Every request for access must pass through a formal application process, with curators weighing the qualifications and research plans of each applicant. Most are turned away, not for secrecy, but out of concern for the preservation of fragile materials and the security of irreplaceable works. Even among approved scholars, access is strictly supervised, often limited to a few hours, and governed by rules that prohibit unsanctioned photography or handling. The full inventory of the Vatican's holdings has never been published. Recent digitization efforts have cataloged thousands of items, but a significant portion remains undocumented in public databases. The scale of what is stored out of sight and the policies that keep it there reflect a deliberate choice to guard the world's cultural heritage, sometimes at the expense of open scholarship. The final discovery is rooted in the arid coast of southern Peru, where the Paracas culture practiced cranial deformation for centuries. In 1928, archaeologist Julio Tello uncovered hundreds of elongated skulls in the Huari Cayan necropolis. Most of these remains are now held in the Museo Regional de Ica and the National Museum of Archaeology in Lima. Each skull is cataloged, its provenance tied to Tello's original excavation logs. Access to these collections is tightly regulated under Peru's cultural heritage laws. Any researcher seeking to sample bone for DNA analysis must obtain permits from the Ministry of Culture, with strict limits on destructive testing. In 2014, a small set of Paracas skulls underwent mitochondrial DNA analysis in a Peruvian-approved laboratory. The results, confirming indigenous South American haplogroups, were only partially published, with raw data withheld pending further review. Calls for more comprehensive genetic studies have run up against both technical and ethical barriers. Indigenous communities viewing these remains as direct ancestors have pressed for repatriation of skulls held abroad and for a halt to invasive research. Museums have responded by tightening access, prioritizing non-destructive imaging, and consultation with descendant groups. The scientific record remains incomplete, shaped as much by the limits of technology as by the responsibilities of stewardship. Thousands of artifacts and records remain beyond public reach, sealed by policy, preservation, or unfinished research. What we know is only a fraction of what exists. As institutions weigh access against secrecy, our understanding of history depends on what is revealed next and what stays hidden. Please share your perspective below.